I had an appointment with Roberts. He did not get up to shake hands. "You're late," he said. I needed a walk. "Sweating out some booze?" "You look hung yourself." He nodded. Then he opened a file. "We have the autopsy now." "Yes, we got it all here," he said, and tapped the file slowly. "It doesn't look so good for you." "Care to give detail?" "I have enough here to lock you up." "Why don't you?" "Probably I will." Maybe the time has come for me to get a lawyer. I put no emphasis on this. I still could not be certain whether he was serious or merely beginning a serious game. "I'd rather talk a while first." "Why?" "You're an intelligent man. I think you're entitled to know how bad your situation is. I want your confession this evening, right here." Something in his posture told me not to answer. "Ever hear," Robert asked, "of dependent lividity?" "I'm not positive." "Well, Rojak, when a death occurs, the body blood begins to coagulate at exactly those parts of the body which are touching the floor or leaning against a wall. That's dependent lividity. Within an hour and a half, you can begin to see black and blue areas with the naked eye. Now, by the time the autopsy was made on your wife, her body was covered with dependent lividity front and back. She had been lying on her face, and then I had turned her over. Your wife was lying on her back in the street. That could possibly account for the dependent lividity there, but it doesn't explain why she had it on her cheek, her breasts, her ribs, her belly, her thighs, her kneecaps, and the ends of her toes. Care to comment?" "Not yet." "This evidence by itself is enough to get you the chair." His eyes looked at me bleakly, as if they saw nothing but stone. "But it is merely the first of 3 clearly defined pieces of evidence we have. I'm not guilty, so I assume there's something wrong with your evidence. Point 2, your wife's hyoid bone was broken. That's a direct sign of strangulation, especially when it's accompanied, as the autopsy shows, by massive hemorrhaging. There must be another reason." "Care to offer it, Rojak?" "You're convinced I did it. Why go on?" "Let me give you the alternatives. A, you talk your way out of here no worse than you came in. B, you give me a confession. C, you don't say a thing, and I lock you up right in that cell block over there. Tomorrow we'll have you arraigned." Some dim caution tried to argue not to say more without a lawyer, yet I couldn't stop here. "You want me to discuss it with you," I said, "and yet you won't agree I give away some advantage by disclosing a possible line of defense." "What do you give away?" "You think we can't think for ourselves?" He smashed his fist down on the desk. "You want to talk," he said, "because you're the kind of degenerate who chases every 100-to-1 shot. You want to be back on the Lower East Side with your new broad tonight. Don't piss on me, Buster. Just sit down and dictate a little confession, and I'll give you a night with her in a midtown hotel with a police guard outside the door." There was something wrong. He wanted my confession too quickly. I knew I should be silent, but I also knew that whatever strength I had, I certainly didn't have the simple strength to sit in a cell. Talking to him, I could keep my strength. Alone, something would begin to unravel in me. I'd come apart. Yes, I'd come apart. "I'm waiting," he said. "Roberts, you can always find one expert to contradict another. Deborah jumped out the window. That's all I know. Your expert says she had to be dead before the fall. I could find an expert to explain that her dependent lividity was a direct result of the impact of striking the ground from 10 stories up and then being buffeted by the car which hit her, broke the hyoid bone in her neck, and caused a massive hemorrhaging. Dependent lividity doesn't come from a body rolling over and over. It comes from resting in one place. When was she resting on her stomach?" "When they put her on the stretcher." "What?" "Yes, I remember thinking how unusual that was, and then realized why. The back of her head was crushed, you know. You remember it was bad. They didn't want her head to lie on the stretcher." "Well, Roberts grinned. You missed a promising legal career. He sat back in his chair. But the fact of the matter, Rojek, is that you still haven't heard point 3. Point 3? Sit back and listen to point 3. Your wife was alive when she went through the window. That you are ready to claim, correct? Correct. Well, you ignored her large intestine. What are you talking about? Believe it or not, these details are no more agreeable to me than to anyone else, but the autopsy does show a complete evacuation of her bowels before she jumped. I don't see the significance, I said. Strangulation results in a total relaxation of the anal sphincter. We gave a thorough examination to the apartment, particularly to her bedroom. Rojak, the carpet was soiled sufficiently for us to establish a certain fact beyond dispute. When you explain that to my satisfaction, you can walk out of this room. Roberts, I'd like to keep something private about my wife. You hinting what I think you're hinting at? I can't go into it. But, of course, I could. Some chamber of the brain had prepared this story, and I was now equipped to give it, detail upon detail, Deborah's precise, if imaginary, speech. Now that you've seen this, there's not much left to see, and her body quick to the window and out in 3 steps. Yes, this imaginary account now had the vividness of the real. I knew if I ever stepped over into psychosis, the story would accompany me in exchange. Roberts had a look of half-convinced attention, the expression he had had for a little while in Deborah's room last night. But I couldn't go on. Let this story stick to Deborah, and the past would sink in like disease. No, I said. You may as well lock me up. His phone buzzed once. Why not sign a confession, he asked. No. Roberts picked up the phone. No, he won't give it. He needs 72 hours. What? Son of a bitch, no. He swore for the next 20 seconds, his eyes so full of blood I thought he was going to beat on the side of my head with a receiver. Then he put his hand to his jaw and held his chin in a grip which must have been equal to pressing a button in the machinery of himself, for it served to return his control. Wait here, he said. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Roberts had left his file on the desk. I took a quick look. He did not have a report of the autopsy. He had notes on the autopsy. And while I didn't understand much of the terminology, I could see he hadn't been telling me the truth. The medical report was qualified. So far as I could understand his notes, the suicide was in doubt. But so was any certainty that Deborah had been dead before the fall. Only traces on the carpet stood out. Someone had used red ink to underline. Then I could hear his step in the hall and got back to my seat. He came in whistling. It was the cool, controlled whistling of a man who has a boil on his neck. Well, Rojak, he said, showing his upper teeth in a smile, you're free of suspicion. Let's go out and have a beer. His eyes were a void. I knew, he said. I knew there was something wrong with this one from the beginning. What are you telling me? The official medical report came in. Suicide. Yes. He nodded. You have a big brother somewhere. I felt as if I had to begin asking questions or I would give myself away. Is that why you wanted my confession in such a hurry? I asked. I could just as soon have waited. It was Lesnicky's idea to put the screws to you. With each breath, Roberts was becoming more genial. I'd give a lot, Rojak, to know how much you really know. Well, I don't know very much. Dad, you drive me to drink. I smiled. I'm on the wagon for another hour. I stood up. It's been a pleasure knowing you, Roberts. Listen, he said finally when I was at the door. If you answer something for me, I think I could offer you something in return. Let's hear your question. Rojak, Are you CIA? I can't tell you something like that. All right, take this for nothing. Maybe you know it already. We had Eddie Ganucci on a technicality. We weren't sure we could hold him more than a couple of hours in any case. But there was a very funny pressure to let him go. And my feeling is it came from the same place yours did. Do you know for certain? I don't. Pressure never has a name on it. You're not stupid, are you, Roberts? I was a good FBI man once upon a time. He rapped me on the back. Keep your end up. It had turned cold outside. I passed a bar and then another bar. I had no idea whether to celebrate or run for cover. At a corner telephone booth, I stopped and made a call to my answer service. They'd reached Mr. Kelly's secretary and now had a message. Mr. Kelly would see me at midnight. I took a cab to Cherry Street, and with a beating heart, I walked up all those sordid, defeat-infested stairs and knocked on her door. It opened. We embraced. I love you, Cherry said. Yes, I love you. Let's go. Let's go back to this morning. We did. Somewhere in the middle, born out of fatigue and tension and the exhaustion of every lie I had told today, like a gift I didn't deserve, that new life began again in me, sweet and perilous and so hard to follow, and I went up with it and leaped and flew over, vaulting down the fall to those washed-out roses washed by the tears of the sea. They washed out to me as my life went in, and I met one cornucopia of flesh and sorrow, scalding sorrow. Those wings were in the room, clear and delicate as a noble intent. That sweet presence spoke of the meaning of love for those who had betrayed it. Yes, I understood the meaning and said, for I knew it now, I think we have to be good, by which I meant we would have to be brave. I lay there, content to touch the tip of a finger to the tip of a breast, and had that knowledge which falls like rain, for now I understood that love was not a gift, but a vow. Only the brave could live with it for more than a little while. I couldn't keep from holding her. Had flesh ever promised to forgive me so? I put my hand on her waist. Some offer rose from her breast and took my hand. Steve? Asked Cherry. Yes? Did you kill your wife? Yes. Yes, she said. You're a cunning little cutie. No, baby. I knew you did it. Oh, God. How did you know? I asked. I saw a man once just after he came back from a killing. You looked like he did. How did he look? Like he'd been painted with a touch of magic. Her face crumpled. I was hoping I was wrong, she said, but I knew I wasn't. Oh, I hope it's not too late for us. Yes. I'm afraid. I am a little myself. Do you have to be somewhere tonight, she asked. I nodded. Who is it you're going to see? Deborah's father. Barney Oswald Kelly? You know his name? I read the papers today. But I could feel her receding from me. There had been something wrong with what she said. You've heard of him before this? A look came into her face. We had the longest pause. It went on so long I could hear a ringing in the air. Stephen, she said, I used to know Kelly. You did? He took me to Vegas. How the hell could you? I broke out. He's an attractive man. He's odious. No, he's not. And he wasn't. In fact, he wasn't. It was different from that. I felt as if Kelly and I were running in the same blood, And that sensation of not belonging to myself, of being owned at my center by Deborah, that emotion, which had come on me not 5 minutes before I killed her, now came back. But then I said, "Do you think we made a child this morning?" "Yes." There was no quiver in the air. If she were lying, I was blind to the point of death, or she was a perfect invention of evil. Moments went by. A gentleness came back to me. "Is it a boy or a girl?" "I'll tell you one thing, mister," she said. "It's a boy or a girl." But there were operations we must get through. I had a lover's practical savagery. "Let's go into all of it," I said. We did. There's more. I saw her temper rising, a flash of that sun-tanned, sensual pride with which she had sung her set last night, but something humbled took her over. "All right," she said. "You ever pregnant before?" "Yes." "Kelly?" "Yes." "What happened to the child?" "I didn't have it." "Any other time?" She was silent. "Jago Martin?" "Yes." "Afraid to have it?" Jago was afraid to have it. "How long ago?" 3 months. She nodded. 3 months ago. "And last week I broke up with him. You see," she said, and now she began to weep, "I thought I could never have a child. The doctor Kelly sent me to hinted something was wrong, and I never tried to find out. I just never got pregnant all those years. And then, with Jago, I did. He turned on me. He said I was a white devil after all the time we spent together." "And you didn't want to have it by yourself?" "I didn't have the guts. You see, I had cheated on him." "With Tony?" "Yes." "Why?" "Habit, I guess." "Habit, hell. Why with Tony? What does he have?" She shook her head. She seemed almost in pain. "There's something sweet in Tony, believe it." "How can I?" "I was aching so. Jago can be evil." That did it. She put her head on the table and gave herself up to grief. I stroked her hair. "How about me?" I asked. "Don't talk too much." "I want to know." "Something happened with you," she said. "What happened?" She shook her head. "Why do you insist? It's bad luck to go on, but you insist. So listen, Stephen, you can have it. It happened with you. I had an orgasm with you. I was never able to before. I'll pick up on that." But there was a delicate hint of gloom to her remark, as if it had happened with the wrong man at the wrong time. "What do you mean, never?" I asked. The need was to make her repeat it. "Never before. Every other way, yes, but never, Stephen, when a man was within me, when a man was right inside of me." "All those years?" "Never." "Christ almighty. I swear." "Can I believe you?" "Yes, you can. Because I always had the feeling once it happened I would soon be dead. I know that's special and doubtless very crazy of me, but that's been my little fear." "And now you don't have it?" "I don't know if I have it or lost it or what. All I know is I'm happy. Now hush. Stop trying to spoil it." There was a sharp little rap on the door. The sentinels had not warned us after all. The rap beat out a tricky little rhythm as weighted inside as a drummer's tattoo on the rim of his snare. Cherry looked across the table at me with a face from which all expression was gone. "That's Jago," she said. A key turned in one of the tumblers, then the other. The door came open. An elegant Negro with a skin dark as midnight was standing there. He looked at the robe I was wearing. "All right," he said to me. "Get dressed. Get your white ass out of here." I'd seen Shago Martin in the final reel of a movie about some jazz musicians, and his photograph on slip jackets for his records. A handsome face, thin and arrogant, a mask. Now, as he stood inside Cherry's door, he was wearing a small black felt hat with a narrow brim. His gray flannel suit had narrow pants. He wore short boots of some new and extraordinary cut, red wine suede with buttons of mother of pearl, and a red velvet waistcoat to match. A shirt of pink silk took light from the vest, even as a crystal glass picks up an echo in the color of the wine, and his tie was narrow, black knit with a small pin. With his left hand, he held a furled umbrella, taut as a sword in its case, and he kept it at an angle to his body, which returned, since his body was tall and slim, some perfect recollection of a lord of Harlem standing at his street corner. This was a fair sum to notice in the time it took him to open the door, come in, look at Cherry, look at me, see his bathrobe on my back, and tell me to get dressed and out, but I saw it all. I smiled at him, no more, and pushed a pack of cigarettes in his direction. "Get out," he said. Our eyes met and stayed together. "I be damned," said Shago. "You got yourself a stud who can stand." "Yes." "Not like Tony?" "No." "Well, stand, you motherfucker," said Shago to me. When I stood up, Martin opened his fingers. He'd been holding a switchblade in his right hand, and it opened from his palm like a snake's tongue. The flick of the blade made no more sound than a stalk of grass being pulled from its root. "I'll tell you," said Shago. "Get dressed. I not like," he went on, "to get cut while I was wearing another man's robe." "Put away your blade," I said. "Get my knife, shit-face." I took a step toward him. I didn't know what I was going to do, but it felt right to take that step. Maybe I had a thought to pick up the whiskey bottle and break it on the table. Shago retreated a step, the blade held out in his open palm, his wrist dipping to some beat he heard in the mood. Looking at that blade was like standing on the edge of a high cliff, one's stomach sucking out of one as one's eyes went down the fall. I had a moment when I remembered the German with the bayonet, and my legs were gone. They were all but gone. I took another step forward against all the lack of will in my legs, took the step, and left the bottle behind as if I knew it would be useless against a knife. My reflexes were never a match for his. What I felt instead was an emptiness in his mood which I could enter. Shago took another step back and closed the blade. "Well, Cherry," he said in a cool voice, "this cat's got valor." Then he put the knife away and gave us both a sweet smile. "Honey," he said to Cherry, "laugh. That's the best piece of acting I done yet." "Oh, God, Shago, you're evil," she told him. But she had to shake her head. There was admiration despite herself. "I'm just sweet and talented, honey." He smiled sweetly at me. "Shake hands, Rojak. You're beautiful," he said, and took my hand. But I didn't like the feel of his palm. There was something limp and leathery to the touch. "How's that for putting you on?" he asked of me. "First rate," I said. "Oh, beautiful," he said. "Such éclat." I was near to being ill. "That's how Shago can sicken you," Cherry said. "Oh, I'm a sick devil, no doubt of that," he said with charm. "Have some hash." He took out a cigarette rolled tight as a toothpick, lit it, offered to pass it to me. I refused. There was an unfamiliar pressure at the back of my neck, an accumulation of I don't know what, but it was from the last half hour, and it warned me to say no. I took a swallow from my whiskey glass. "For you, girl." He held it to her. "Uh-uh." She shook her head. "Uh-uh." "You pregs again?" he asked. And at the expression on her face, he whistled, laughed, made a small demonstration. "Shit!" he cried out. You can't tell that fast. That's a mistake made by many. You don't know, girl. But the shaft was in. I saw something in his eyes as the marijuana took hold. He'd not been ready for this. He had the expression of a big fish just speared. The flank of the eyeball showed horror. Something in the past had just been maimed forever. He was suffering not from the possibility that she was pregnant, but that she had had an experience with me which made her believe she was, and he knew all about that. "Listen, baby, you don't leave me," he said. "I'll cut out your heart." And with that he walked over to me, put his fingers on my chest, gave a disdainful push. "Up your ass, motherfuck," and turned around, leaving the scent of marijuana on my clothes. The pressure back of my neck let go of itself, and I was a brain full of blood. The light went red. It was red. I took him from behind, my arms around his waist, hefted him in the air, and slammed him to the floor so hard his legs went. And we ended with Shago in a sitting position, and me behind him on my knees, my arms choking the air from his chest as I lifted him up and smashed him down, and lifted him up and smashed him down again. "Let me go, I'll kill you, bugger," he cried out, and there was a moment when I could have done that. I had the choice to let him go, let him stand up. We would fight, but I had a fear of what I heard in his voice. It was like that wail from the end of the earth you hear in a baby's voice. My rage took over. I lifted him up and stomped him down I don't know how many times. 10 times, 15. It could have been 20. I was out of control. Violence seemed to shake itself free from him. Each time I smashed him back to the floor and shake itself into me. I kept beating the base of his spine on the floor, the shock going up to his head. I had never had an idea I was this strong. Exhilaration in the fact of the strength itself. And then he went limp, and I let go, stepped back. He fell back. The back of his head struck the floor with the blunt thud of an apple dropping from a tree. Shago looked up at me from the ground and said, "Up your ass." I almost kicked in his head. Close as that. Instead, I picked him up, opened the door, manhandled him to the hall. There he put up resistance. And when I got a whiff of his odor, which had something of defeat in it, and a smell of full nearness, as if we'd been in bed for an hour, well, it was too close. I threw him down the stairs. Some hard-lodged boulder of fear I'd always felt with Negroes was in the bumping, elbow-busting, and crash of sound as he went barreling down, my terror going with him in the long, deliberate equivalent of the event which takes place in an automobile just before a collision and into the smash itself. The banner quivered as he hit. He looked up at me from the bottom, his face bleeding from cuts, welts springing out, his head near to misshapen, and said, "You shit-ass," and started trying to climb the stairs on his hands and knees, which released still another core of rage in me, as if it were doubly intolerable that his will would not break. I knew this was how children came to kill little cats, and I met him on the fourth stair from the bottom and ran into one weak punch he threw, which caught me a glint of pain on the chin, and was bleeding later from the mark of his ring, and then rushed him across the landing and down another flight of stairs, back another landing, down another flight of stairs, eyes on us from the crack of every door, me holding him with two grips on his gray conservative suit as if he were a bag of potatoes I could bump along, and when on the last flight of stairs he tried to bite me, I threw him down the run again and waited while he lay still. "You had it?" I called down, like some whiskey-flushed Episcopalian minister of doom. "Shit on your mother," he said, getting to his hands and knees. "Shago, I'm going to kill you," I said. "No, man, you kill women," he said. It was a speech, but he said it so slowly that my breath flowed back and forth 5, 6, 8, 10 times. "Why, shit," said Shago, "you just killed a little woman and me." Then he made an attempt to climb the stairs, but his leg buckled. He sat down on the floor. He vomited from the pain. I stood where I was, waiting for him to finish. "All right," he said at last. "I'm going." "Shago, can I get you a cab?" He laughed like a fiend. "Say, Dad," he said, "I'd rather they eat me outside than that you get me a cab." "Okay." Now he smiled. Rojack? Yeah? Tell you something, man. I don't hate. Never. That's it. That's it. Tell Cherry, her and you, I wish you luck. You do? I swear. Yeah, I swear. Look, man. Thank you, Sago. Sayonara! He got up from the floor and put together a series of moves to get through the door to the street, progressing like a fly without wings and 3 legs torn off. It had all gone wrong again. I could feel the break in the heavens. If I could have taken some of it back, I would have returned to that moment when I began to beat Shaker to the floor and he dared me to let him go. It looked as if Cherry hadn't moved from the bed. I sat down to have a drink. She looked up and said, I don't feel right. You don't look well. Well, she said, you look about as good as you looked when I met you on the street. Thank you, I said. She looked no more, no less than a tired nightclub singer. I got up from my drink and spent the next 5 minutes getting dressed. I'm sorry you and Shago didn't make it, I said to her. She was silent. Then she said at last, Stephen, we can't leave it here. I'm not in love with Shago anymore. He made me so filthy these last 2 months that when you were with him in the hall, I had a thought. It was, throw that nigger down the stairs. Yes? Throw that nigger down the stairs. Shago was the only man I ever knew who could make something in me turn over when he came into a room. I don't know if I'll ever feel that again. I think you get that only with one man. Yeah, I said. Would I be good enough to take every last truth she had to offer? Yes, I said. I know what you mean. I had something like that with Deborah. Still, I said flatly, we have something else. Yes. Yes, we do. Oh, honey, here we are. Too late to save the country. Steve, I don't know if we're any good, she said, or just as low down and dead as 2 shits. I want us dead if we turn into that. The look of a child touched by an angel came back to her. I wanted to be all right. But the memory of the fight lay between us. We'd talked forward, we'd talked back. There was a hint of that time when we might be married and talked too long for too little, while beneath all surface of the marriage, like the corpse of a memory buried alive, some flaw would continue to rot at the center. Oh, baby, the fight left a hole, she said. Yes, love was a mountain which was climbed with a good heart and a good breath. One was brave, and the other was true. The ascent was not yet begun, and I had been ready to betray. I finished my drink. In a minute I would have to go. Sugar, she said. Yes. Watch the booze when you're with Kelly. Take your hand off my fly, said the Duchess to the bishop. We laughed. We'd come a little of the way back. Angel, I said, do you have any money? Close to $4,000. Let's buy a car and go away somewhere. I like that, she said. We could go to Las Vegas, I said. She took a quick look, saw I meant what I'd said more than I didn't, so she smiled. Divine, she said. I took a cab to Kelly's Waldorf suite. The doorman said good evening and gave me a smile. I gave the elevator operator, a sturdy turnip of a woman, the name of Barney Kelly, and she studied me like a police matron. Mr. Kelly expecting you? Indeed he is. The elevator decelerated with a plunge of sinkers at my chest. We were there. I went down the hall, a long hall with a carpet of civilized brown, much milk in it, and pale green walls, light as a new leaf. Kelly's door was familiar. For a moment I began to shake, as from a chill from the memory of the half-dozen times I'd come to this door. Then I lifted the knocker. Ruta answered. She was wearing an expensive black silk with a string of pearls, and her face stared back at me, piquant and painted, inquisitive, rapacious. Some energy returned to my blood. The blood no longer felt as if it would flow away to the moon. No, some pig's riot gave promise of existing still, and I stood at the door, giving a full stare at her, while a provisional sanity began to form. You look well, I said. She smiled. 2 or 3 hours, plus a full 24, must have gone by since she quit the precinct, but she'd found the time to go to a beauty parlor, the best beauty parlor in New York, no doubt. Now the red in her hair was perfect, as the red and brown of a fine wood with a lick of flame, the soft lick of a flame, and the red of a rich clay to support the fire in the wood. Good evening, Mr. Rojak, she said. The last time I'd been this close, Ruta's hair was half down her neck, the roots had shown. Lipstick was half off her mouth, clothes up, off, to every side, her clump in my fingers, and both of us dripping ozone in the haste of making love while standing up. A host of the heats came to me on a whiff of my own odor now, and the hint was there again between us. Her pointed nose, sensitive to mood as the antennae of a cat, tilted to the side and looked at the unprotected space between my cheek and my ear. Well, bless you for being so good with the cops, I said. Oh, she said, you are much too kind. We were thinking that she had not been so very good after all, not with the cops. Between us, Ruta said, your father-in-law had something to do with getting you off. I wonder why. You must ask him yourself. She looked for an instant about to offer me more, but her expression moved on. Look, she said, it is disturbed here tonight. There have been people all evening. Now 2 are left. I tell you in secret they are horrible. Let's go in nonetheless. You would not like to see Deirdre first? She's back from school? Of course she is back. She waited till midnight for you to appear. Then her grandfather sent her to bed. She is up, however. I had a pure woe, as if an airplane dropped suddenly. The route was too roundabout. I'd forced my nerve to be ready for Kelly. Now such preparation would be lost. Memories might begin. Ruta drew me to a bedroom. Look, she said, I will try to wait for you. There's something I want to talk about. She gave another smile, reached across to open the door, and said, Deirdre, your stepfather is here.